Hi there, Mrs. Wagner here. I am going to go over this PowerPoint called Atoms, Elements, Compounds, and Mixtures. We're going to be able to explain what an atom is. We want to state the differences between chemicals, such as elements, compounds, and mixtures. We want to be able to give examples of all three, and we want to know that compounds can be made from its elements. So let's get to it. So what are atoms? Copper is a metal that can be used for wires and pipes. If we zoomed in trillions of times onto this piece of copper, we would see tiny particles. These are known as atoms. So in the past, we've been describing all matter that's made up of particles. We've used the term particles. We're going to start replacing that word with the word atoms. Okay, so we zoom in on this copper and we see that it is made up of all the same kinds of particles or the same kinds of atoms. And that's represented by one color to indicate that copper is made up of the same kind of atom. And it's only made up of one kind of atom. Okay, atoms make up you, the earth, stars, and everything else. Here are just some basic atom facts. Atoms are the basic building blocks of all matter, and they're very small. Your body is made up of 7 billion atoms. Each year, 98% of your atoms are replaced for new ones. If you counted every grain of sand on Earth, you would have nearly the same number of atoms in one grain of sand. That's a lot. Atoms and elements. So what's the difference here? Some chemicals are made of only one type of atom, and some are made up of two or more atoms joined together. So atoms make up both of these things. Atoms make up copper, atoms make up you, but there's a little bit of a difference. Copper is just made up of one kind of atom. You are made up of many kinds of atoms. So let's start talking about the copper, which is considered an element. Elements are substances that are made up of only one type of atom. Okay, as we can see in the picture here, it's just one color there. They cannot be broken down into anything simpler. A copper atom cannot be broken down into anything smaller than a copper atom and still retain those properties. So this is the simplest form of matter. So which picture here is an element? Is it the one on the left or is it the one on the right? The box on the left is an element, and that's because it's made up of only one type of atom. So the model shows one color circle, whereas the other side, the one on the right, we have two colored circles. That tells us we have two different types of atoms chemically combined there. All right, here we have two elements. We have an element with blue circles, another element with yellow circles, but when we chemically combine those, we can form a compound. So when we say chemically combined, we mean when they're touching like this, okay? That means they are bonded together, and it's a very tight bond, cannot be easily separated. So when two or more elements are chemically joined together, they form compounds. So you can start to think about some of the compounds that we know of. Water, carbon dioxide, which is carbon and oxygen. Carbon and monoxide, again, carbon and oxygen. Sugar, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So those are just some examples of compounds. All right, so when elements join together, they behave in different ways than when they are just their own element. For example, hydrogen and oxygen can come together and react to form water. So let's talk about some similarities and differences between just hydrogen, just oxygen, and just water, and maybe some differences. So the similarities between all three, they're all considered pure substances. This means that they occur naturally in nature. They're all chemicals, and they're all made up of atoms. Here are some differences. They're all made up of different kinds of atoms. That would be a difference. But at room temperature, hydrogen and oxygen are gases, but water at room temperature is a liquid. So when oxygen and hydrogen, which are gases, come together and chemically combine, they form a liquid. That's a completely new substance, and that's a compound. So why is the following not a compound? Here we have an element, another element, so two different kinds of elements, and we put them together, we mix them. This is not a compound because they are not bonded, they are not joined, they are not together, they're not touching. So we don't have the yellow touching and chemically combined to the red. They're just side by side. We could actually very easily separate those yellow circles from those red circles. And we call that a mixture. So a mixture contains two or more substances that are not joined together. They can easily be separated. So you can think about all the mixtures that you know of and maybe give yourself 60 seconds. A couple that I can think of. Sugar water, salt water. Let's see, another mixture, salad dressing, chocolate milk. Those would be mixtures. Milk and cereal. Those are mixtures. Element, compound, or mixture. So what do you think this is? That's an element. They're of the same kind of atom. This is a compound. There are two different kinds of atoms chemically combined because they're touching, they're bonded. So that's a compound. This would be one element. That's another kind of element. This one is the same kind. This one's a different kind, but they're not chemically combined, so we just have a mixture. What do you think that is? We have some different compounds here, but they aren't chemically combined to each other. That compound is not chemically combined to that one. That makes it a mixture. How about this one? We have an element, we have a compound, we have another compound, but the three are not chemically combined. That makes it a mixture. Okay, so separating mixtures. Iron and sulfur, they're elements. They're different kinds of elements, and each are made up of only one type of atom. If we mixed them together, how would you separate them? In your assignment that you're going to do in Google Classroom, you have a video, this video right here. It is linked in the document. You're going to watch that video, and you're going to see a teacher separate these two elements. Then iron and sulfur, they can react to form a compound called iron sulfide, and you're going to see that occur. How would you know if you formed a compound? You're going to see something in that video. So in the document that you're going to do for your assignment, you're going to watch this video, and you're going to answer some questions afterwards. Okay, so how have you done? We're going to practice. So in Google Classroom, you have two documents, two worksheets. So you're going to complete the atoms, elements, and compounds worksheet in Google Classroom. And then the second worksheet is a practice worksheet called Elements, Compounds, and Mixtures. Practice worksheet. So there are two assignments in Google Classroom that you're going to complete.